Fever 1793, Chapter 10, September 6th, 1793. The patient is to be placed in a large empty tub and 2 buckets full of water of the temperature 75 or 80 degrees Fahrenheit thermometer are to be thrown on him. Dr. Adam Kuhn, Philadelphia, 1793. Eliza shook my shoulder. I woke at once with a sharp breath. Outside, the sky was turning pale gold. Mockingbirds were singing. Mother slept, her skin the color of an old weathered barn. At least she was still alive. Your grandfather and I have found help, Eliza whispered. Dr. Kerr. He's educated from Scotland. Dr. Kerr nodded to me. He was a small man wearing a black coat and carrying a small medical case. He set the case on the floor and opened Mother's eyelids with his fingers. She slept on. Where's grandfather? I asked. Waiting downstairs, Eliza said. How was she in the night? Dr. Kerr asked as he started his examination. I did everything Mr. Rowley instructed. I bathed her and gave her tea. I tried to keep the bedclothes clean, but we'll wash today. She finally slept after midnight. Do you think she looks better? She feels a little cooler to me. Mr. Rowley said it was just an autumnal fever, nothing serious. Eliza pulled me closer to her. Shh, she said gently. Dr. Kerr rose off the bed. Fool, he growled. Excuse me, I said. Rowley, the impostor. Autumnal fever indeed. Your mother has yellow fever. There's no doubt at all. Yellow fever. My mouth moved, but I could not breathe. It made no sense. Mother wouldn't allow it. She had given birth to me in the morning and cooked supper for 10 that night. She survived the British occupation while my father fought with Washington's troops. Mother beat back illness with a broom. A loud moan interrupted my thoughts. Dr. Kerr laid his fingers on Mother's wrist. Her pulse is fast and strong, he said. This is the crisis. She must be bled. Dear God, won't that weaken her more? I asked. Bunkum, Dr. Kerr said angrily. Dr. Rush has proven that bleeding is the only way to save a patient that's close to the grave. But she could mend yet, Eliza said. Dr. Kerr took a small lancet from his bag. It glinted in the sunlight. He handed me a basin and told Eliza to hold Mother's shoulders. I felt faint. Her pulse is full, quick, intense, he said, pushing up Mother's sleeve. Hold the basin right against her arm. The pestilent boils within her blood and must be drained. I flinched as the lancet flashed and the blood from Mother's arm poured into the basin. Dr. Kerr handed me a second basin when the first was full. My stomach turned over, but I clenched my jaw and stood firm. There, he said finally. He bandaged the cut on her arm and rolled down her sleeve. Mother lay still and silent, but she was breathing. That was 10 ounces of blood. I'll come back tomorrow and take another 10. She needs to purge the disease still in her stomach and bowels. She'll need 10 grains of jalap and 10 grains of calomel. It will be dirty work to care for her, but it should clean her system efficiently. But she's so pale, I said. Can't the medicines wait a day or so? Mother finally roused. She blinked her eyes and pointed at me. Get her out, she whispered. Out. A cough choked off the rest of her words. Dr. Kerr and Eliza struggled to calm her. Go wait in the kitchen, Maddie, Eliza said. She won't settle until you are gone. She doesn't want you here. She's afraid you'll get sick. Dr. Kerr took me by the arm before I could protest. He led me down the stairs like a lamb on a string. She doesn't want you to see the worst. You can help down here. I'm sure Eliza would appreciate a cup of tea. Lucille is a strong woman. With God's mercy, she will survive this peril. Grandfather was waiting for us at the bottom of the stairs. Dr. Kerr got right to the point. Yellow fever, William. There's no doubt. I advise you to send Matilda out of the city at once. What? I asked. Grandfather sat heavily in a kitchen chair. Lucille has been wanting her out of town. No, I stamped my foot on the floor. You can't send me away. I need to be here. I need to help. You can't send me away. Dr. Kerr frowned. I understand, Matilda. These are difficult days for us all. Sensible people have turned mad overnight. They're rinsing their clothes in vinegar and wearing tarred ropes around their necks. This is no place for a young girl like you. I wiped my eyes on my sleeve. Why can't Mother come with me? Wouldn't it be better for her in the country air? No town will let her in, explained Dr. Kerr. They turn all fever victims away. Your cook can care for your mother. Your grandfather can travel with you. This is the best for all. Grandfather tried to smile. We'll make it an adventure, lass. He turned as Eliza came down the steps carrying filthy sheets. I've explained to Matilda that she'll be leaving, Dr. Kerr said. 'Tis best, Eliza said. I advise you to hire a wagon as soon as possible, Dr. Kerr said. He picked up his medical case. They're scarce as hen's teeth. Remember to tie a yellow cloth to the front railing. This coffee house is officially closed. As he closed the door behind him, I started to argue. We haven't heard from the Luddingtons. I can't turn up without an invitation. Let me stay one more day, Eliza. Grandfather, surely you understand. We want to keep you safe, lass, Grandfather said as he pulled himself to his feet. He paused to cough, then put on his hat. I'm off to find us a coach. This could not be happening. They were sending me away to strangers. You'll let me stay, won't you, Eliza? Eliza swung the kettle over the fire to boil. Maddie, you are like kin to me, as is your mother. I can't let you stay here. Lucille doesn't want it, and neither do I. Her face was grim and set in a way I have never seen before. No amount of cajoling would change her mind. I'll pack a hamper of food for your trip, she said. She paused by the sideboard to pick something up. I nearly forgot. This was by the front door when I came in. It's addressed to you. Who would be sending anything to me? The parcel was flat and as large as my hand. I fumbled with the brown paper, trying to unwrap it carefully so we could use the paper again. Eliza looked over my shoulder and made an approving noise. It was a painting, a vase full of delicate flowers, bright blue, lavender, and red, carefully painted on a scrap of wood. The flowers looked alive, like they would move if a breeze stirred through the kitchen. Eliza rummaged through the wrapping paper. Here, she said. He sent a note. Maddie, I write to you in haste. Master Peel is closing up the house with his family and assistants inside to protect us from the fever. We have water from the well and food stored. My thoughts race. These flowers are for you. Take good care, Maddie. I would not want you sick. We shall watch for balloons again when this plague has passed. N.B. Morning came too quickly, and it was time to leave. Maddie, the wagon is here, Eliza called. It was hard to tell which would collapse first. The wagon or the horse pulling it. The farmer and his wife sat up front, holding a baby with dried snot across its face. Grandfather rode in the back, waving triumphantly. Eliza eyed the horse with doubt. It's a beauty, isn't it? He bellowed. The horse stopped in front of the coffee house, puffing and wheezing. The farmer jumped down to load my valise and food hamper into the back of the wagon. Grandfather headed into the house. Be out in a tick, he promised. He was acting like we were headed for a lark instead of fleeing an epidemic. I shook my head. It wouldn't do to be angry. I hugged Eliza one last time. She muttered a quiet blessing and tucked a lock of hair into my cap. You stay out of there until too hard frost, she warned. Promise me that. Yes, ma'am, I answered. Thank you, Eliza. Thank you for everything. You've done so much. I couldn't choke out anything else. She hugged me tighter. Hush, child. I'm doing no more than your mother would do in my place. This is how the Lord wants us to treat each other. She'll be fine, and we both know it. Don't worry about her. You take care of yourself. She turned me around and gave me a shove toward the wagon. Thought you said the old man was coming, the farmer said as he tied down the valise. Have patience, I said. Here he comes. Grandfather stepped onto the porch dressed in his regimental jacket, his sword buckled onto his belt and King George on his shoulder. He saluted. Captain William Farnsworth Cook, Pennsylvania 5th Regiment, here to escort you beyond the lines of the dread and terrible enemy, yellow fever, Miss Matilda. He clicked his boots together and offered his arm to me. Eliza laughed as she wiped her eyes with her apron. Grandfather helped me climb up into the wagon before hoisting himself aboard with a grunt. King George circled overhead and squawked. The farmer yelled, "Giddy up," and cracked the whip across the back of the horse. And so I left home in a manner quite unpredicted.